The morning of my sister's engagement ceremony, I watched her preen in front of the mirror, adjusting the sapphire necklace that had once been mine. In my previous life, I'd worn that same necklace when Prince Adrian proposed to me in the palace gardens. 3 months later, I was dead, poisoned by my own sister's hand on our wedding day. Liliana, help me with this clasp, Sophia commanded, not bothering to look at me. She never did. To her, I was furniture, useful only when needed. I stepped forward, my fingers steady despite the memories flooding back. The weight of that necklace around my throat, the burning in my lungs as the poison took hold. Sophia's triumphant smile as she watched me die, whispering how she'd always deserved to be princess, not me. There, I said softly, securing the clasp. Perfect. She admired herself, turning this way and that. Prince Adrian will be so pleased. Mother says he specifically requested me after that unfortunate incident with you. The unfortunate incident. That's what they called it now. My broken engagement 6 months ago, when I'd supposedly been caught in a compromising position with a stable boy. Of course, it had been Sophia who orchestrated it all, paying the boy to enter my room while she led Prince Adrian there at precisely the right moment. In this life, I'd let it happen. I'd stood there, silent and seemingly stunned, as my reputation crumbled and my engagement was dissolved. I'm happy for you, I said, and meant it. She could have him. Sophia laughed, a tinkling sound that had charmed so many. Oh, Liliana, always so gracious in defeat. Though I suppose you have no choice, do you? No one else will have you now. Our mother swept into the room, resplendent in burgundy silk. Sophia, darling, you look radiant. The prince won't be able to take his eyes off you. Her gaze slid over me dismissively. Liliana, why aren't you dressed? We leave in an hour. I am dressed, Mother. She frowned at my simple gray gown. That? You'll embarrass us. At least try to look presentable. We can't have people thinking we've completely given up on you. In my previous life, I'd worn my finest gown to this ceremony, desperately trying to win back some dignity. I'd stood in the crowd watching my sister claim what had been mine, my heart breaking with each moment. This time, I wanted to be invisible. I needed to be invisible. I'll fetch my blue dress, I said. The servants have already packed it, Mother said. Really, Liliana, must you be so difficult about everything? It's enough that you've brought shame to this family. The least you can do is support your sister properly. Support. I'd supported them all my life. When Father's investments failed 5 years ago, it was my inheritance from grandmother that saved us from ruin. When Sophia wanted to attend the Royal Academy, it was my scholarship I gave up so she could take my place. When Mother needed someone to blame for every misfortune, I'd been her willing scapegoat. Even in my first life, I'd loved them despite everything. I'd believed that someday, somehow, they would love me back. That belief had killed me. The carriage ride to the palace was silent except for Sophia's occasional comments about her future life as princess. She'd already planned renovations to the East Wing, new ladies-in-waiting, a grander wardrobe. Mother encouraged every fantasy, adding her own suggestions about court positions for our cousins, trade agreements that would benefit Father's struggling businesses. Neither of them noticed the military checkpoints we passed through. Neither remarked on the unusual number of soldiers in the streets. They didn't see what I saw, the grim faces, the hushed conversations, the way certain nobles' carriages were being quietly redirected away from the palace. In my previous life, I hadn't noticed either. I'd been too consumed with my own heartbreak to recognize the signs of revolution brewing. But I'd learned, in those final moments, as poison burned through my veins, that Prince Adrian had been overthrown that very night. Sophia had died barely 3 hours after me, executed alongside her new husband by the man who'd orchestrated it all, Archduke Marcus Ravencrest. The Iron Duke, they called him. The kingdom's greatest general who'd returned from 10 years of warfare to find the realm in chaos, the treasury emptied by Prince Adrian's excesses, the people starving while nobles threw elaborate parties. He'd taken the throne with barely a drop of blood spilled, most of the nobility surrendering the moment his forces surrounded the palace. In this life, I knew exactly when it would happen. Tonight, during the engagement ball, while everyone was drunk on wine and distracted by celebration. Stand up straight, Mother hissed as we entered the palace. And smile. We don't want people thinking you're jealous of your sister. I obeyed, following them through the familiar halls. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The same gaudy decorations Prince Adrian favored, the same sycophantic courtiers, the same whispers that followed in my wake. But this time, I also noticed other things. The servants moving with unusual purpose, the way certain guards kept checking their timepieces, the absence of several key military officials who should have been present. Prince Adrian stood at the far end of the throne room, resplendent in white and gold. He was handsome, I supposed, in that soft, pampered way that had once made my heart flutter. Now I saw him clearly, weak chin, cruel eyes, hands that had never held anything heavier than a wine goblet. In my previous life, I'd thought his cruelty was strength. I'd mistaken his arrogance for confidence. "Lady Sophia," he said, taking my sister's hand, "you grow more beautiful each day." She simpered, curtsying low. "Your Highness is too kind." He hadn't even looked at me. In my first life, that had cut deep. Now I was grateful for the invisibility. The ceremony proceeded with all the pomp Prince Adrian loved. Speeches about the joining of two great houses, the future prosperity of the kingdom, the many heirs Sophia would surely provide. I stood with my parents, the perfect picture of a supportive sister, and counted the minutes. It was during the third speech that I saw him. Archduke Marcus Ravencrest stood in the shadow of a pillar, his dark eyes surveying the room. He wasn't supposed to be here. Prince Adrian had banned him from court after a disagreement about military funding. Yet there he was, dressed in simple black, a stark contrast to the peacocking nobles around him. He was exactly as I remembered from the brief glimpse I'd had in my previous life, moments before my death. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of harsh beauty that came from years of battlefield survival. A scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, a souvenir from the War of Three Crowns. His dark hair was pulled back severely, and his hand rested casually on the pommel of his sword. A real sword, not the decorative toys the other nobles wore. His eyes met mine across the room. I should have looked away. A ruined woman had no business meeting the gaze of the kingdom's most powerful duke. But something in his expression held me. A curious intensity, as if he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then he moved, cutting through the crowd with military precision. Nobles scrambled out of his way, their faces pale. Prince Adrian hadn't noticed yet, too busy accepting congratulations from his favorites. "Lady Liliana," the Archduke said, stopping before me. My mother gasped. My father stepped forward as if to shield me from whatever terrible thing was about to happen. Because why else would the Iron Duke approach their disgraced daughter? "Your Grace," I said, curtsying properly, but not as low as I would have for the prince. A calculated risk, but I'd learned things in my second life. I knew that Marcus Ravencrest despised excessive ceremony. "Walk with me," he said. Not a request. "She's not going anywhere with you," my father blustered, finding courage from somewhere. "Whatever you think she's done." "Lord Ashford," the Archduke said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from commanding armies. "Your daughter is in no danger from me. The same cannot be said for anyone who remains in this room past sunset." My father paled. "What are you—" "Liliana," my mother hissed. "Don't you dare cause another scene. Your sister—" "Will be a widow by morning," the Archduke said bluntly. "Unless she has the sense to renounce her engagement in the next hour." The blood drained from Sophia's face. "How dare you threaten the prince? Guards!" But the guards didn't move. Of course they didn't. I'd noticed earlier that they wore the Ravencrest insignia beneath their palace tabards. "It's not a threat," the Archduke said. "It's a courtesy, extended solely because your sister has caught my interest." His eyes returned to me. "The offer to walk remains open, Lady Liliana, but not for long." This was it, the moment that would change everything. In my previous life, I'd died in ignorance, never knowing that salvation had been mere hours away. But the Archduke hadn't known I existed then. I'd been just another noble daughter, invisible in my sister's shadow. "I'll go," I said. "Liliana!" My mother grabbed my arm. "You've already destroyed your reputation once. Will you ruin your sister's happiness too?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who'd given birth to me but had never been a mother. The woman who'd told me, when I was 7 and crying over Sophia breaking my favorite doll, that I should be grateful my sister even acknowledged my existence. The woman who'd taken my inheritance and given it to Sophia for her dowry. Mother, I said quietly, when have you ever cared about my happiness? I pulled free and took the Archduke's offered arm. The walk through the palace gardens was surreal. The same paths where Prince Adrian had proposed to me, where I'd later died, now bloomed with spring flowers. The Archduke said nothing at first, his stride measured to match mine. You knew, he finally said. When I mentioned sunset, you weren't surprised. You already knew. I chose my words carefully. I pay attention, Your Grace. The servants are nervous. Several military officials are absent. The palace guards wear different insignia beneath their uniforms. I paused. And you're here despite being banned from court. Observant, he said. Yet you said nothing to your family. Would they have listened? My mother cares only about Sophia's advancement. My father cares only about his failing businesses. And Sophia. I let the sentence trail off. And Sophia has what was once yours, he finished. I looked at him sharply. He smiled, a brief, dangerous thing. I investigate thoroughly, Lady Liliana. I know about your broken engagement. I also know about the stable boy who was paid 500 gold coins, a fortune for someone of his station. Curious how he left for the eastern provinces the very next day. Many people travel to the eastern provinces, I said carefully. Indeed. Just as many eldest daughters gracefully accept their younger sister's triumph over them. He stopped walking, turning to face me fully. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A broken woman, a schemer, perhaps a spy. He studied me with those dark eyes. Instead, I find someone playing a much longer game. Tell me, Lady Liliana, what do you know about tonight? This was dangerous territory. I couldn't tell him about my previous life, about dying and being reborn with all my memories intact. He'd think me mad. I know that Prince Adrian has bankrupted the kingdom, I said instead. I know the people are starving while he throws elaborate parties. I know the army hasn't been paid in 3 months. I met his gaze steadily, and I know that a kingdom cannot survive such leadership. And if I told you I intended to change that? Then I would say the kingdom is fortunate to have you, Your Grace. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his harsh features. Careful, my lady. Such words could be considered treason. Only if Prince Adrian remains in power to judge them so. You have more courage than your reputation suggests. My reputation is destroyed, I said simply. I have nothing left to lose. Nothing? He moved closer, close enough that I could smell leather and steel and something uniquely him. What if I offered you something to gain? My heart pounded, but not from fear. What could you possibly offer me? Marriage, he said bluntly. To me. I stared at him. In my previous life, the Archduke had never married. He'd taken the throne and ruled alone, brilliant but isolated, trusted by none of the nobility who'd betrayed Prince Adrian. Why? I managed. Because I need legitimacy, he said, equally frank. The people will support me, but the nobility will scheme and plot unless I give them something familiar to cling to. A noble bride from an old family. But not just any bride. One who understands survival, who knows how to navigate court politics, who has already proven she can endure suffering with grace. You could have anyone, I said. Daughters of dukes, foreign princesses. All of whom would come with expectations, alliances, debts. You, Lady Liliana, come with nothing but yourself. Your family has cast you aside. You have no political connections left. You are, in essence, free. Free. I'd never thought of it that way. And, he continued, you're intelligent enough to have seen this coming. Brave enough to walk with me knowing what I'm about to do. Practical enough to accept an offer that benefits us both. What makes you think I'd accept? He smiled again, that dangerous expression. Because in 1 hour your sister will be either a traitor's widow or a woman who publicly rejected a prince. Your family will be ruined either way. Unless, of course, they have a daughter married to the new king. The calculated coldness of it should have appalled me. Instead, I found it refreshing. No false promises of love, no pretty lies, just truth, stark and simple. I have conditions, I said. His eyebrows rose. You're negotiating. You said you wanted intelligence, Your Grace. Did you expect me to accept without terms? Name them. First, my family is to be protected, but not rewarded. They survive, nothing more. Second, I want control of my grandmother's estates. They were mine before my parents took them for Sophia's dowry. Third, I want your word that you won't set me aside when your position is secure. And in return, I'll be the queen you need. I'll navigate the nobility, manage the court, produce heirs. I'll be your partner in rebuilding this kingdom. I took a breath, and I'll tell you exactly how my sister orchestrated my downfall, including the names of everyone who helped her. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me. Then he extended his hand. Agreed. I took it, his calloused palm warm against mine. When? Now, he said. There's a priest waiting in the palace chapel. We'll be married before the revolution begins. That's very efficient. I'm a military man, Lady Liliana. I believe in swift, decisive action. He offered his arm again. Shall we? I took it, my mind spinning. In my previous life, I'd died in ignorance and pain. Now, I was about to become queen. The irony was delicious. The chapel was small, private, used only by the royal family. The priest was nervous but ready, clearly having been briefed. 2 of the Archduke's men stood as witnesses. It was nothing like the grand wedding I'd planned with Prince Adrian. No flowers, no music, no crowd of admirers. It was perfect. Do you, Liliana Elizabeth Ashford, take this man as your husband to honor and obey, in sickness and in health, until death parts you? I do, I said, my voice steady. Do you, Marcus Alexander Ravencrest, take this woman as your wife, to protect and cherish in sickness and in health until death parts you? I do. Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus kissed me then, brief but thorough, a claiming that left me breathless. When he pulled back, his eyes held a promise of things to come. Your Majesty, one of his men said urgently, it's time. Indeed, he looked at me. Stay here until I send for you. It will be safer. No, I said. He frowned, but I continued. You said you needed a queen who understood court politics. Let me prove it. Let them see us together from the beginning. It could be dangerous. You'll protect me, I said with more confidence than I felt. Won't you, husband? That dangerous smile returned. Always, wife. We returned to the throne room together, my hand on his arm. The scene that greeted us was exactly as I remembered from my previous life's final moments. Prince Adrian holding court, Sophia beside him, my parents hovering nearby with other favored nobles. The music stopped when we entered. Conversations died. Every eye turned to us, taking in the Archduke's presence, my position at his side, the subtle changes that marked us as married, the Ravencrest signet ring on my finger, the way he positioned himself slightly forward, protective. Marcus, Prince Adrian said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage, I banned you from court. You did, Marcus agreed pleasantly. Unfortunately, your authority ends tonight. Guards, arrest this traitor. The guards stepped forward toward Prince Adrian. His face went white as he realized the truth. This is treason, he shrieked. No, Marcus said calmly. This is revolution. You've bankrupted the kingdom, starved the people, and sold military positions to the highest bidder. Your reign ends now. You can't do this. I'm the rightful prince. You were, Marcus corrected. The High Council has already signed the succession papers. Your corruption, your embezzlement, your gross negligence, it's all documented. Prince Adrian's eyes darted around wildly, looking for support. None came. The nobles who'd fawned over him moments ago now stood silent, already calculating their positions in the new regime. His gaze landed on me. You, he snarled. This is your doing, isn't it? You couldn't stand that Sophia had me, so you... Actually, I said, finding my voice, I should thank you. If you hadn't broken our engagement, I never would have found a worthy husband. The room gasped. Sophia's face went from white to red. Husband? She shrieked. You married him? You treacherous little... Careful, Marcus said softly. You're speaking to the new queen. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, one of the older nobles, Duke Harrington, who'd survived 3 regime changes, bent his knee. "Your Majesties," he said. Like dominoes, others followed. The smarter ones immediately, the prideful ones reluctantly. Soon, only Prince Adrian, my family, and a handful of his most devoted sycophants remained standing. "Take the former prince to the tower," Marcus commanded. "He'll stand trial for his crimes." "You can't!" Adrian struggled as guards seized him. "I'm royal blood. You're nothing but a jumped-up soldier." "I'm the soldier who just took your throne," Marcus said. "And unlike you, I'll actually use it to serve the kingdom." They dragged Adrian away, his screams echoing through the halls. Sophia stood frozen, her engagement ceremony turned into a nightmare. "As for the rest of Prince Adrian's inner circle," Marcus continued, "you have a choice. Swear fealty now and keep your titles, though not your positions. Or refuse and share his fate." They knelt. Of course they did. Nobles were nothing if not survivors. My family remained standing, not out of defiance but from shock. My mother's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. And Sophia stared at me with such hatred that in my previous life it would have broken my heart. Now I felt nothing. "Your Majesty," I said to Marcus, loud enough for everyone to hear, "my family appears to be overwhelmed. Perhaps they need a moment to understand their new position." "Your family," he said, matching my volume, "has been granted protection as part of our marriage agreement. They'll retain their titles and estates, though any connection to the former prince must be severed immediately. The message was clear. They lived because of me." My mother found her voice. "Liliana, darling." "Your Majesty," I corrected coldly. "I am Your Majesty now, Mother." She flinched as if slapped. "Your Majesty, we had no idea, if we'd known." "If you'd known, you would have treated me differently?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "How enlightening. But don't worry, Mother. I'll be exactly as kind to you as you were to me." Her face went ashen as the implications sank in. "Sophia," I said, turning to my sister, "your engagement is obviously dissolved. I suggest you retire to the country for a while. The climate at court will be difficult for former favorites of the old regime." "You planned this," she hissed. "You knew this would happen." "I knew many things," I said quietly, stepping closer so only she could hear. "I knew about the stable boy you paid. I knew about the letters you forged. I knew about the poison you planned to use." Her eyes widened in shock. She hadn't purchased the poison yet in this timeline, but she would have. The fact that I knew about it from my previous life was my secret. "How? Did you really think you were that clever?" I whispered. "That I was that stupid? I let you have Adrian because I knew what he was. Weak, corrupt, doomed. And I knew what you were too. So desperate for what was mine that you'd blind yourself to reality." "I hate you," she breathed. "I know," I said. "You always have." I stepped back, returning to Marcus's side. He offered his arm again, and I took it. "The coronation will be held in 3 days," he announced to the room. "Those who wish to attend may present themselves for approval. For now, court is dismissed." We left together, walking through halls that would now be mine. Behind us, I could hear the frantic whispers, the political calculations, the desperate scrambling for position in the new order. "That was well done," Marcus said once we were alone, "though perhaps a bit harsh on your family." "They were never truly my family," I said. "Family doesn't treat you the way they treated me." "And how did they treat you?" I told him as we walked. Not about my previous life, but about this one. The years of emotional abuse, the financial theft, the constant dismissal and humiliation. The way they'd used my inheritance to fund Sophia's ambitions. The way they'd blamed me for every misfortune while taking credit for every success I achieved. His face darkened with each revelation. "If I'd known..." "You'd have what? Rescued me earlier?" I smiled slightly. "I didn't need rescuing, Your Majesty. I needed the right opportunity. You gave me that." "Marcus," he said. "In private, call me Marcus. Then you must call me Liliana." We'd reached the royal quarters. His quarters, now ours. The guards stationed outside bowed low. "The palace is secure, Your Majesty," one reported. "All key positions have been taken. The treasury has been sealed pending audit. The former prince's supporters have been detained. Excellent. Double the city patrols tonight. I want no riots, no looting. This is a liberation, not a conquest. Yes, Your Majesty. Inside, the quarters were luxurious but tasteful. Nothing like Adrian's gaudy excess. Marcus poured 2 glasses of wine, offering me one. To new beginnings, he said. To justice, I countered. We drank, the wine warming me. Then, because I needed to know, I asked, why did you really choose me? He was quiet for a moment. 3 months ago, I had my spies investigate every noble family in the kingdom. I needed to know who would support me, who would oppose me, who could be turned. Your family was unremarkable, declining fortune, social climbing, typical court parasites. Flattering, I said dryly. But then I noticed something interesting. Every success your family claimed, every windfall, every opportunity, they all traced back to you. Your grandmother's inheritance that saved them from bankruptcy. The scholarship you earned that Sophia used. The connections you made that your father leveraged for his failing businesses. You were the foundation holding them up, and they didn't even see it. He moved closer, his eyes intense. Then came your broken engagement. My spies reported that you accepted it with unusual grace. No tears, no pleading, no attempts at revenge. Just quiet acceptance. That intrigued me. Either you were broken beyond repair, or you were playing a much deeper game. And which did you decide? Neither, he said. I decided you were waiting. Like a soldier in siege position, conserving resources, biding time, waiting for the right moment to strike. And if you were wrong, then I'd have a beautiful, broken wife who would cause me no trouble. He touched my face gently. But I wasn't wrong, was I? No, I admitted, you weren't. He kissed me then, nothing like the brief touch in the chapel. This was claiming and promise and something that might someday become love. When we parted, I asked, what now? Now we rebuild a kingdom, he said, together. The next 3 days passed in a whirlwind. Marcus had been planning for months, years even, and his transition was remarkably smooth. The military supported him completely. He was their commander, the one who'd led them to victory in countless battles while Adrian partied. The people, suffering under Adrian's taxes and neglect, welcomed change. The nobility was trickier, but that's where I came in. Lord Blackwood, I said pleasantly to one of Adrian's former advisors, how good of you to request an audience. He shifted nervously in the receiving room I'd claimed as my own. Your Majesty, I wanted to assure you of my complete loyalty to the new regime. Of course, I said. Though I do wonder about those shipping contracts you arranged with Prince Adrian. The ones that diverted grain shipments from the northern provinces to line your own pockets? His face went white. Your Majesty, The people in those provinces nearly starved last winter, I continued conversationally. Children died, Lord Blackwood, but I'm sure your new warehouses were worth it. I'll return everything, he said quickly. Every copper coin? You'll return double, I corrected. Half to the royal treasury, half directly to the affected provinces. You'll also personally oversee the distribution of emergency supplies for the next year at your own expense. That will bankrupt me. No, it will humble you. There's a difference. Accept, or Marcus will handle this his way. I assure you, my way is kinder. He accepted. They all did, once they realized that my mercy came with conditions and Marcus's justice came with steel. My family requested an audience on the second day. I made them wait until the third. They entered my receiving room like beaten dogs, all their arrogance gone. Sophia had lost weight, her face gaunt. My parents seemed to have aged years. Your Majesty, they said in unison, bowing low. I let them hold the bow just long enough to be uncomfortable. Rise. They straightened, and I saw Sophia's jaw clench at having to look up at me on my raised seat. We've come to pay our respects, Father said carefully, and to thank you for your protection. My protection, I repeated. Yes, you're welcome for that. Though I wonder, would you have protected me if our positions were reversed? The silence was answer enough. Your estates are secure, I continued, yes. You'll live comfortably, though not lavishly. The inheritance that was taken from me has been returned to my control. You'll receive a modest annual income, enough to maintain your dignity, but not enough to play politics. Liliana, your majesty. Mother corrected herself quickly. We're your family, surely. My family! I laughed coldly. You told me when I was 7 that I should be grateful Sophia acknowledged my existence. You took my scholarship and gave it to her. You spent my inheritance on her dowry. You stood by while she destroyed my reputation. What family does that? We didn't know. You didn't care, I corrected. There's a difference. You saw me as a resource to be exploited for Sophia's benefit. Well, now you see where that led. So you'll abandon us? Sophia finally spoke, her voice bitter. Cast us aside? Abandon you? No. I'm giving you exactly what you gave me, the bare minimum. You'll survive, you'll have food and shelter and basic respect. But love, support, loyalty, those are earned, sister, and you never tried to earn mine. I was going to be a princess, she whispered. You were going to be dead, I said bluntly. Adrian would have been executed for treason. You would have died beside him, either by the executioner's axe or by your own hand from shame. I saved your life by letting you think you'd won. The truth of it, or at least the partial truth I could share, silenced her. You may go, I said. Return to your estates, live quietly, and be grateful that my mercy exceeds your cruelty. They left, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No regret. They were simply a chapter closed. The coronation was magnificent. Marcus had insisted on it, knowing the people needed spectacle, needed to see the dawn of a new era. I wore a gown of deep midnight blue, the Ravencrest colors with my grandmother's diamonds, the ones my mother had tried to claim for Sophia. The cathedral was packed. Every noble family had sent representatives, even those who'd supported Adrian. They knelt when we entered, a sea of submission to the new order. The high priest, ancient and pragmatic, performed the ceremony with grave dignity. The crown was heavy on my head, but I'd borne heavier weights. Long live the king! Long live the queen! The cry echoed through the cathedral, through the streets where the people celebrated. Free food was distributed, taxes were temporarily suspended, and long overdue military pay was issued. Marcus knew how to win hearts as well as battles. That night, at the coronation feast, I stood beside my husband as the nobility paid homage. Duke Harrington, the survivor, was particularly effusive. Your majesties have saved the kingdom, he declared. We are blessed by your wisdom and strength. Pretty words, Marcus murmured to me. He said the same to Adrian at his coronation. He's a weather vane, I agreed. But weather vanes are useful. They show which way the wind blows. And which way does it blow now? I smiled. Toward prosperity, if we're clever. The treasury is empty, but the nobles who enrich themselves under Adrian are not. We'll need to be creative in how we reclaim those resources. You have ideas. Several, starting with a comprehensive tax review. I'm certain we'll find numerous discrepancies in what was reported versus what was earned. He chuckled. You're going to audit them into submission. It's less bloody than your methods, but equally effective. He raised his glass slightly. To my clever queen, to my protective king. We were interrupted by a commotion at the feast's entrance. Lord Garrett, one of Adrian's most corrupt supporters who'd fled the night of the revolution, had been captured and dragged before us. Please, he begged, falling to his knees. Mercy, your majesties. I was led astray. I didn't know. You didn't know that stealing from orphanages was wrong? Marcus asked coldly. That selling military supplies to our enemies was treason? I was following orders. Adrian's orders, I asked. The same Adrian who sits in the tower awaiting trial? Tell me, Lord Garrett, what orders did he give regarding the poison you procured last month? The hall went silent. Garrett's face went from white to green. Poison? Marcus's voice was deadly quiet. It wasn't. It was for me, wasn't it? I said conversationally. In case I proved troublesome after Sophia became princess, she couldn't risk me revealing what I knew about the stable boy. Gasps echoed through the hall. Sophia, seated at a lower table with our parents, stood abruptly. That's a lie, she cried. Is it? I produced a letter from my sleeve, one of many pieces of evidence I'd quietly collected over the past months. Your handwriting, sister. Discussing with Lord Garrett the need for a permanent solution to the Liliana problem. Rather unsubtle, don't you think? She swayed, all color draining from her face. Our parents looked horrified. Whether at her actions or at being caught, I neither knew nor cared. You plotted to murder the queen? Marcus rose from his throne, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. You dare! It was before, Sophia cried desperately. Before you were queen, before any of this. I didn't mean. You meant it, I said quietly. Just as you meant it when you destroyed my reputation. Just as you meant every cruel word, every humiliation, every theft of what was mine. Guards, Marcus commanded. Arrest Lady Sophia Ashford for conspiracy to commit murder. No. Our mother tried to rush forward but was held back. Please, she's your sister. She was never my sister, I said. Sisters protect each other. She only ever tried to destroy me.